I am very honored to be here today to talk. As Claude said, this is the inaugural presentation, and I did express some reservations to him on being first. Don't know really what Joe and Carol have in mind for parts 2 and 3 on this, but the note I got from Claude was try to be engaging. So I will try that and see if that works. I was even uncertain as to whether to wear a tie or not today. So this afternoon I called the head's office to talk to Anil to see if I could borrow a tie from him. And here I am. That's an inside joke. The title of mine, I tried to make it engaging, of taking me from where I was when I left high school as the local lawnmower mechanic in a little town in southern Indiana to what I am now, which is a mechanics professor. Really wasn't a lawnmower mechanic by design, but I had a lawn mowing business, and if you have a lawn mowing business, you are also a lawnmower mechanic because you have to fix things. So I got pretty good at tearing engines down and putting them back together quite fast. In 1970, I moved to West Lafayette to pursue my bachelor's of science in mechanical engineering. My picture is up there on the left if you don't recognize me from that. It was the 70s, so the hair was appropriate, somewhat appropriate for the time. And I also show one of my best friends up there, which many of you might recognize, particularly the dean, because Tony Harris has served on the, I think, on the Dean's Industrial Advisory Committee, as well as the one here from Mechanical Engineering.
Receiving an honorary doctorate in May.
That is true. And you may also know that he and 5 of his friends from what he calls the Chicago Six were the ones who founded National Society of Black Engineers. I moved after graduation in 1975 to Pasadena to attend school at Caltech. I wanted to say something about every place I was outside of school. One person there, you may recognize the face, the other one you may not. The one on the right was my roommate at Caltech. He was a very original entrepreneur and very good guy in design who built bicycles. And it turned out that Paramount was interested in an interesting bicycle for a movie that they were making in '76, I think it was. You may have seen it, Heaven Can't Wait. And Mr. Beatty was the producer, and it spent a very interesting Friday afternoon like today meeting with him and was serving as a consultant on bicycles. It was a very entertaining time. So among the other consulting and research and teaching, then I graduated from Caltech in 1980 and then closed the loop and came back here to Purdue University. So in summary, a bachelor's degree from here, MS and PhD at Caltech. For a short time, I also have served as academic director at ProEd. Had some visiting research engineering experience at Exxon Production Research. I was an engineering co-op student at Marshall, a very enlightening, very nice time, and then turned that into an internship right after that in Martin Marietta in Denver. What I thought I would do is, as most of us here, we have at least 2 sides of our life of research and teaching, to spend a little bit of time talking about where I've been on both sides. I will probably spend the most time talking in depth on some things we've been doing in teaching. But on the research side, I come from a nonlinear dynamics background at Caltech, applications there to earthquake engineering. But since then, I have been back here. There's been a lot of applications you're going to see in terms of automotive systems, friction-induced oscillations, and things of this type. What I would like to do is say a little bit about work I've done in the last recent 10 years or so. And the first one is a series of projects that I had with Farshid Sadeghi, our PhD student, Ed Berger. Ed Berger is now professor at University of Virginia, and we were doing work there with the engagement of clutches, trying to be able to figure out what goes into the smoothness or non-smoothness of an engagement. A very enlightening project for me because it really brought together experimental sides, which I really hadn't done much of before. Farshid, that is his specialty, particularly in the area of tribology, so the match worked out well. And Ed Berger, by far the best grad student I've ever had, was a real pleasure with whom to work. Say a little bit more about him in just a bit. Another project with Kobe Davis and Farshid, looking really at the thermal effects in terms of engagement and friction, elastic or thermoelastic instabilities. Project with Bill Conley. Bill is now, he got his PhD, he's working for Crane Naval Research here in Indiana, along with Arvind Raman and Jeff Rhodes. And we were looking at sort of applications on a very small scale of things we've done before. And that's planar and non-planar response of these nanoscale beams, and also looking at stick-slip motions as you drag a beam across a surface, trying to understand the relationships between the speed and the stick-slip. Jin-Chun Wang and Anil. Jin-Chun is faculty member now in China, and this, to me, is some of the most interesting work that I feel that we have done in terms of a brake squeal. Brake squeal is a problem in terms of vibrations. It's a non-standard thing. It's not the usual just knowing natural frequencies and mode shapes and things as that, but it comes about as an instability because of coupling of modes between the different components in such a way that energy flows from the rotation into the undesired vibrations. And the problem with it that makes it so difficult is not so much the technical side, or at least the analytical side, but it's more on uncertainties in terms of the contact between the things that's trying to stop the car. There's the brake pad, or the brake shoe in this case, against the drum at an asperity level. There's big changes in stiffness depending upon where WEAR, and where WHEAR, that the contact occurs in terms of which modes which will couple. And I think we got a fairly good understanding, at least on why the uncertainty is there and why brake squeal is difficult to control, and to this day remains a real problem in terms of noise generation in cars. This is brake squeal 2, doing this with Jae-Young Kang and Farshid again. Jae-Young now is currently a faculty member in Korea, and he was very ambitious, very good student in covering a very broad range of aspects of brake squeal. Helped us answer a lot of questions that we've been asking ourselves before in terms of dynamic instabilities and mode couplings and things as that. Brake squeal 3 was with Farshid again, this time with Ashwin Kumar and David Vanderlust. Ashwin was just a master's student at the time. Interestingly, I just heard from him last night. He is finishing up on his PhD in global policy, I think, at Carnegie Mellon. The reason he's giving me a call is he wants to get back into engineering. So I looked at that as being good. He's wanting some advice. But anyway, he and David together did a very good job on looking at the distributions of the asperities on the contact surface of the pad and how that leads to the different modes that might couple together for a squeal, both experimental and analytical work. Another one, sort of a short duration project, very interesting with Matt Duncan and Carl Waskren, where we were looking at evaluating the performance of a particle impact damper, trying to understand why certain factors such as damping and heights and amplitudes of the base go into figuring out where it's most effective in terms of damping. Okay, so getting on to the instructional side. I have been here for 32 plus years. I came here a few years before Claude. In fact, I defended on September 23rd of 1980, and I was here teaching 274 on October the 8th. I have no idea why I was so anxious to get into this. To this day, I still don't know. But I began teaching ME 274, which was dynamics, the first room down the hallway on the right. And during that time of teaching 270 and 274, 323, and 325, at some point prior to 2007, like many of you who teach have felt, is that there's a certain frustration and the lack of engagement by the students in the class. And this is a lack of engagement that seems to get worse as class sizes increase. And we've seen significant increases in those in the last few years. We need to change the way that we teach. And up to that point, I and Carl Waskren and Ed Berger at Virginia were just trying to figure out the how-to part. How can you use the technology? But it was in 2007 where Ed Berger came up with this concept of higher ed 2.0. The ed has nothing to do with his name. Because I tried to make it higher Chuck, and he said, no way on that. But it's the higher ed 2.0 means we're using Web 2.0 technology in higher education. And that was an NSF project. And it was a great launching point for us here at Purdue, because Jeff Rhodes and I have then sort of taken the ideas that Ed and I learned back on higher ed 2.0 and have moved on to something we call the mechanics freeform classroom. But just to say a little bit about what higher ed 2.0 is, it's the idea, again, of using Web 2.0 technologies in higher education, where we get the students themselves more involved in ways it's not that easy to do when the class sizes are large. It was an NSF program with Ed Berger at UVA, myself here, and then two colleagues at Akron and Smith, focusing on sophomore level mechanics. We had some very good partners in Apple and Prentice Hall. What was higher ed 2.0? It was really using a collection of different means and tools to help get the point across for the courses we were trying to teach. And I think the core of this was the course blog. And it turns out that the course blog, to be honest, I was a little skeptical at the beginning, because I'd tried these kinds of things before, and I didn't really know what I was doing, not from technology, but from the pedagogical side. But I learned from and with Ed on better ways to do it. So the blog, I think, turned out to be the best thing of it all, but coupled with that were the lecture videos, solution videos for homeworks, animations, pre-recorded lecture videos, demos. Interesting one here, material that's produced by these students themselves. Case studies, which we now call practical knowledge assessment, and then working together with Ed and actually teaching together at a distance. So the course blog is a lot of facets to it. And these are things that I learned as we went, in that it's really becomes a sense of a community within the class. We realize that students have only a finite amount of time. Even if we said don't work on any other course but ours, they still only have a finite amount of time. Anytime you take away from or put in hours, they got to take away from someplace else. So we did find that it's a good tool for engagement. Students teach each other. They talk amongst themselves on the web almost to the same level that they would if they were talking face to face. And then also anytime, anywhere. Any time of the day, on weekends, spring break. No, not spring break, only so far. But they are on there a lot. And we hear that they learn. So the Bloom's taxonomy, the classifications here on the different levels through which people are going to learn, we feel that what we have done in Higher Ed 2.0 is really enhance things up here in the upper few layers of this, of application, analysis, evaluation, and creation. These are the different aspects of things that we have them doing on the web and different resources that are available to them through the blog. Here's how the blog used to look a few years back. I apologize that the colors we chose back there was kind of blah and bland. You can, kind of hard to read, but the basic structure of this is the blog is on this side here. The blog meaning the place where students interact. And I'll show you details of this, but these are basically prompts that Jeff and I put up here to get them going on the conversations, and then they read comments and add. And then on the right-hand side are the important things are right here are the course links for different things, different material that they can use for the course. So here's how a typical blog comment thread might go. This is a homework problem from the book. Looks like there were 45 comments, so these were made within one or two nights, like a Monday night and Tuesday night for something that's due on Wednesday. You can't read the details because the font is too small, but what you would see, if you could, is that they will oftentimes start out with, hey, I don't know how to start. Can someone help me out? And the surprising thing, to me at least, was that a lot of students take the time to help. They don't just say, you should have gone to class or you should read the book. They actually take the time to start them out. If they're stuck, if they're saying things that are wrong, they'll take the time to explain why what they said is wrong. And so this truly does give you sort of the level of time that must go in by these students in the class and trying to help out.
Here we have a problem, compound.
So what this is homework. This would be a homework problem that we would assign. And once a problem is assigned, worked, and collected, then we post a solution on a blog. And it's not posted as a PDF, but it's more as either Jeff or myself working through it. I'll move ahead here so you can sort of see what's going on. We're talking through it, we're writing it out in a detail. We're trying to emphasize a certain way to solve it. So they actually get to see us work. And we talk about why we do what we do. And oftentimes we make a mistake. And we are able to figure out on the spot, well, we actually made a mistake up here. You go up and make a correction. So it helps them to sort of see how they can troubleshoot themselves. There are also examples that go into the course textbook, and for every example that's in the course textbook, we have a video. So if we don't cover all the examples in the book, they have available to them the video there on the blog. End of the course evaluations say that these are the #1 big thing for them. They love these because they get to see us work through something that they want to learn. Animations oftentimes, and this one is not a great example, but of taking a picture and making it move in a way that it really does in the problem that they're trying to solve. So you couple that with some discussion and points, and we have a good number of these, and primarily these are embedded in problems where there's something to be learned beyond just the answer. If there's a point to be made in terms of phase or amplitude or frequency or things as this. For some courses, particularly this one here, ME 375, which we offer at a distance, we also have lecture videos where these students get all of their interaction with the instructor through here, so that they will have a book, lecture notes, and they'll see me going through it and talking about it just like I would in class. Some of the better lectures that I have are the ones where you can actually take the opportunity to not only work through something like this, but also do a demonstration. So here's a problem from 375 where I'm talking about instability. And the instability in this case is the finger running on the edge of the glass, and the point of the problem is to understand how the pressure on the glass or the wetness of your finger or the speed, those factors go into that sound. So I'm talking it through, I'm relaying it back to what they had just seen. So these are ways that we can use the technology to do things that we couldn't do before. It's hard to get this embedded in a textbook. These are the best ones, though. These are ones that Ed and I both encouraged our students to participate in this Web 2.0 stuff by producing videos themselves. And I like this one here because this guy is taking an exam question from the course, which he did not do well on. And he said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build an example of this. And it's basically, the cans aren't important, but it's a T-shaped bar. He's going to shoot an arrow at it. And he's talking about the angular momentum change in there. So he demonstrates that. Then he goes to the board and explains how he should have worked the problem. And sort of what he saw from his experiment. So I really liked this one here because it's a very amateur sort of a presentation, but it's really gold, I think, because it really is putting it in language that his friends and colleagues can understand. Same kind of thing here. We encouraged our students to add things to the blog in terms of what they were interested in related to dynamics. This one student was interested in roller coasters. And he was a very advanced student in the class. So he was able to post in the blog several pages of analysis explaining several things in terms of riding a roller coaster and what you feel in terms of the centrifugal effects. And what you see here is a video he actually put together. He made for this course for less than a fraction of 1% of the grade in the course. And this was enough of an inspiration to Jeff and I that his enthusiasm for this and the reception in the class prompted Jeff and I to put together a 1-hour course just on roller coasters that we offer every year. Even a bigger upside to this is that this was done by Jake Miller, who is now a PhD student of Jeff's. So I think it was the interaction with us, him and us, that really got Jake interested in working on a PhD. So Jake is halfway through with his pursuit of a degree. The case studies are not exactly case studies, but what Jeff has phrased as practical knowledge assessment, where we'll take a situation that they're familiar with, kids riding on a merry-go-round, a car going down the road, and trying to understand the differential on the braking force in front and rear, or center of percussion on a baseball bat, or the trick of pulling a tablecloth from underneath the glass. These are problems we will formulate and post on the blog, and then as an assignment they have to read through this, and then in class the following day they will work in groups on trying to assess what they see. The difficulty with these is coming up with interesting questions, but ones that scale in able for them to be able to work on something together for 12 minutes or so. So that's a challenge, but if it actually works, it's really good, because these are the things that work best in groups. We found that having students work in groups just to solve a homework problem, one student does all the work, but they will actually get involved in these. And so here's a real live one that we have got, and this is one we have in terms of understanding how to ride a merry-go-round. In actuality, it's these kids are playing on there. They're pushing a ball from, trying to push it straight across, and of course it doesn't work that way. If you see it from above, the ball goes straight. But from the view, the perspective of the moving reference frame of the merry-go-round, the ball actually curves. And so this here is to try to explain why. So in the end, we have a video here where I've worked through to explain through equations that they actually use quite a bit in the course, why it's true. And then we have animations here on the bottom on why, from a fixed observation point, the path is straight, where if you put the video camera on the merry-go-round itself, the math explains why it curves and why it curves in the direction that it does. So these are some new things that we are putting together. It's going to become part of our book for the course, but again, it's going to take a little bit more time to refine them in terms of scaling on time and scope for the class. Am I still talking? Let me mute that then. The Higher Ed 2.0 also introduced to us with our tools in place. It would be relatively easy to collaborate at a distance in terms of teaching. So back in fall 2009, Ed Berger in University of Virginia and myself here at Purdue, we team taught the same course as statics. We used the same blog. Our students were talking back and forth amongst themselves. For the most part, no one knew who anyone was. They all had IDs that they chose, and so they didn't know whether they're here at Purdue or there. But the interaction was just as good as it was here. We had the same homeworks, the same exams, the same book. I even taught a lecture at a distance for them, and Ed did the same thing for mine. Then on a regular basis, we use these Higher Ed 2.0 tools for teaching IME 375, Systems Dynamics course, to Purdue students who are studying abroad in a number of locations around the world. This semester, I've got 40-some people in the class, and the lectures are delivered through Blackboard, I guess. But the point there is that they're seeing lectures that I record myself, as well as the videos for both homework and examples from their notes. So how does this work? How has this been received? We keep track of activity on the blog. That seems to be a good pulse to get on this, on how it's used. This is a plot on number of page views from first day of class all the way through the end of the semester. There were 4 exams in the course. I bet you could tell me on which day that those exams were. So we're talking large number of hits here in one day. So for this particular semester, there were a total of 40,000 visits. Not, if you figure it out, visits per student during the semester, 134. If you scale it by visits per student per lecture, it's about 3.5 visits. And then in terms of page views, 160,000 or so. Views per student per lecture, 14.7. But you can see that a lot of these are happening right around the crunch time for exams. And some things in terms of just how the blog is actually used. You see that I forget how many students were in the class, but there were 210 active students, which was about 90% of the class. So in terms of blog comments, around 12, and more than half the class had 6 or more during the semester. Just the inverse of few people making remarks and comments in the blog around the exam. They figure at that point they're on their own. I think the conversations are best for homework. Conversations are not so good for exams. So in terms of what blog comments are made, 80% of those are in response to comments made by others. So there's not a lot of, hey, I don't get it. There's a lot of remarks on, hey, this is what you ought to be thinking about as you work through this. So an offshoot in a Higher Ed 2.0 is what Jeff Rhodes and I have done. Jeff's been on the faculty for only 5 or 6 years, I think, but he quickly embraced this idea. He's been an excellent person with whom to work. And we have taken the Higher Ed 2.0 and moved much beyond, I think. We have basically written a textbook for the course, and these were basically our lecture notes we combined together. We rewrote it, but the examples and some of the concepts is a combination of both of our efforts. I was going to bring copy down, but forgot to. It's about 500 pages long. So this is a custom written book. The key thing for us was we wanted homework problems that were fresh and that we had control over these solutions, unlike what you would find for a normal textbook for a course. The course blog idea has stayed. We've we feel that that is just such a great tool for interaction. We have developed a lot of videos. I forget what the numbers are, but I think we counted up, if you combine homeworks and examples from the book, the videos for those, and lectures and things, there's like 800 or 900 of them. So it's a fairly large amount. And a new thing that we are working on is having interactive simulations using the software called Working Model. I've used that quite a bit on developing animations for the course, but the ability to turn over to these students and do stuff is limited by them being able to come in and actually sit down in front of a computer on limited 40 seats in one room. Our goal here is to deliver this through a hub where we can have them working from home at any time of the day on problems where they can interactively solve it. We will pose a problem and they will need to make observations and write up a short report sort of thing on what they see. So the lecture book here is kind of the framework. It's still old technology. It's on pieces of paper, where all the rest of our pre-lecture videos and solution videos and our soon-to-be added interactive simulations will all be done through blog or through hub. So the textbook itself, again, I want to say a little bit about this. This is a fourth semester course in dynamics. There are many titles out there. There are many thousands of copies of these books sold every year. But we found that what we wanted to do, which was, one, have a book that suited our needs in terms of the topics, the kind of approach we wanted them to use, homeworks whose solutions we could control. It was important for us to have this book. But we found that as we put it together, we were adding stuff that we weren't really finding in other books, and we found that these students were very receptive to it. Concept, or the idea here of a challenge questions in the books, where we'll be at some point and we'll just say, hey, let's stop and let's think about, what does this mean? How can you apply this? Answer this question based on what you just learned. Or conceptually based questions at the end of each chapter. We've got over 200 of those. And then, of course, the homework problems, we continue to add 5 or 10% every semester of the new ones that we integrate and assign with the old. And the practical knowledge assessment, the case study examples are things that we will continue to add. And this is a poster that Jeff, I think, put together for an AE workshop a year or two ago, which summarizes the different aspects we have of this free-form classroom. One thing that I recall that we are to do in these presentations is sort of talk about the past and then talk about what's next. What do I see myself doing, and what is the direction from this point on? And I think the instructional tools, as far as where to go next, I feel that we're on a good track here. I think the efforts that Jeff and I have for 274, Eric Nauman has been doing pretty much the same thing with ME 270. And we feel that we're on track. And for me, my future is going to be to redraw that picture, okay? Once I do it, I'm done, okay? But what I mean by this is the way that this picture is, the lecture book on top there is this physical, holdable object. It's paper. on which the students read from, they bring it to class, they take notes in. That's separate from what they see once they get on the blog. To me, the best thing is to have everything integrated together. I mean, everything is all right there together. They don't have to remember to go to the blog to look at the video for the example on page 10. We want it to be kind of a jetpack looking thing where everything is all right there together. Once more students get tablet PCs and they can write on them, then that will be a natural thing. The rest of the technology, I think, is already there, and it's going to be very easy for us to put this together. But to us, we feel that this is the new paradigm for a textbook. It's not so much that it's electronic, but the electronicness of it allows you to bring things together in ways that you couldn't do before. And so instead of going and buying a new or used copy of Beer and Johnson's Dynamics book, you would be purchasing access to a Rhodes and Krousgrill or whomever electronic textbook which has all the facets of the book and the videos and the lectures and, importantly, the interactive simulations. Or offer a module, a third of a course in dynamics from Purdue. Rather than just buying the textbook, we could offer it as a module for a course or in an entire course. We could do it to individuals, or even better, we could sell it to other academic institutions that they could use, not to replace their course, but to supplement what they have. They would still have live instructors, but they would use this as a super textbook in the end. And this all, I feel, is in the same direction of the thought process of what people working on the Hub U are doing. I mention this because in the last 2 weeks, we have begun conversations with the people at Purdue Hub U. They are very interested, we're very interested in working together. And I think their goal is this module idea where they would be offering a badge for completion of part of a course. We would like just the whole package here together. I think the Hub U has a lot to offer. So thank you. I'd like to thank the Dean and the Strategic Initiative Committee for making it possible for me to talk to you today. As I said, it's a real honor to be here. Don't get a chance to thank colleagues in public as much as I would like to, so I'd like to take that opportunity to thank the people whose names I have listed here on the screen of Anil and Farshid and Carl on the research side, along with John Starkey, Doug Adams. In terms of a teaching, I've had the honor of teaching with a lot of people in mechanical engineering. Peter, Justin, Patricia, and I have taught many times together. And we'd like to thank you for that opportunity. And maybe someone who's not here, I would like to thank Bob Fox, those of you who might remember him from years back. He has always been an inspiration to me as being a person in academics who, when you really sat down to figure out what he was always about the best for the students. And I always appreciated that and learned a lot from him. So we'd like to thank you for coming here on Friday afternoon. Thank you. Questions? Yes, Jim.
So, questions on a efficiencies, and so I'm thinking this through. So doing anything well takes time and effort.
Right.
But do you find that this approach allows you to do things well with reduced effort, or do you get leverage? I mean, do the students invent new teaching examples and tools for you that you use and so forth?
They do. You saw two of them there. And oftentimes they're things that you can automatically use. I think the role of the students is as much for an inspiration as anything else. They may not do it the way you would like it done, but you go, hey, that was a neat idea that they had, and then you go in and you might redo it, things as that. But your real question, I think, is maybe comes back to time, the investment on time. And it would be untrue of me to say that this happened overnight. It did not. It happened over 5 years' time. But I would say it wasn't that big of an expense on time. I think the first few videos that you make, you redo them a lot of times. But after that, you find that in any given night, I could put 4 or 5 of them together and still have time to do lots of other things. And if you were just doing it for one semester and then quitting and going off and doing something else, not worth your time. But they're there for now and the next semester in 5, 10 years down the road. So I think it's a matter of money in the bank in the sense that you can reuse these things without any problem whatsoever. When you record something, don't mention that Purdue just lost a basketball game or something in there, because hopefully they won't continue to lose games, right? So it's one of those things is make it as time uncoupled as you can, and you can reuse. But I think the biggest amount of time it takes is just keeping yourself focused on, are you doing the right thing or not? And always think, is there a better way that you might do it? But the students are truly our inspiration, I think. I think they're the ones who would keep us going. We see how they respond semester after semester. Yeah.
2 questions. One's just a logical follow-on to Jim's, and the other's a process question. So this question of timelessness and doing it once, it's not worth the effort. Any sense of what the shelf life is of modules or examples, and what's the refresh cycle for all our pieces of books?
The good news is that Newtonian mechanics hasn't changed in the last 300-400 years, right? So we're not.
Engineers are at a disadvantage.
Exactly. So we're not too worried about that. Styles of clothes. Of clothing is not a big issue because Jeff and I are never seen, okay? One time you did see me.
You're never stylish.
But that one time you saw me there, that's really the only time actually that I ever appear. So that's not. But I think as technology will change, that will date stuff. I think that it's pretty stable now. The QuickTime, for example, hasn't changed much in the last 15 years, but that technology could make a difference. But I think it's a natural thing that you will, just like you will want to get a new book when the edges of the paper turn yellow, when the QuickTime clips get a little yellow around the edge, you will do it. But I feel that the ones we did 5 years ago, we're using them just as much as we are now. I look forward to using them for 5 more years. Yeah.
I do have a process question too.
Sure.
I mean, so you've been breaking new ground for a lot of years on this. So what things have made it easy and what things have stood in the way?
Oh. What has made it easy is not being the lone person out there. I think if you tried to do this on your own, and it's not a matter of time, but it's a matter of ideas. I'm not saying I steal the ideas, but it's more of the interaction. The sum is greater than than the parts. And my interaction with Ed Berger, for example, at Virginia has been the thing that has made it great for me. And then working with Jeff here. So it's the people with whom you work, I think, is what makes it work. What gets in the way is just the clock. It's got 24 hours on there and that's it. You know, you can't get more than that out. Yeah.
Chuck, my question is more related to your content and the way that you understand how students learn and all that has been embedded so well into the class that you're sort of replacing yourself in some sense. How do you see the future of on-campus education evolving in terms of having all this thing done? And you're talking about distance delivery on the one hand and teaching international students and so on. And how do you see the need for students to be present on campus changing up in the future as more and more courses people learn like you?
Right. You know, I'm not really optimistic that we could actually sell the courses, truly the courses, to different schools. But I do see us being able to sell the material and the philosophy to other schools. In fact, this past fall, we did offer this to a faculty member at McGill in Montreal. It was very successful. We created the blog, we maintained the blog, the videos was all available to them, and the evaluation we got back from the students in the McGill class was just a huge thumbs up. But there was a live faculty person on the other end teaching the course. I think that is going to be crucial to something that works well. To me, if you just offer a student this and say, here it is, come back and see me at the end of the semester. It's just like saying, go read in the library, come back. That's not going to work. I think videos can be no more interesting than books. But if you keep the human interaction part in there, it's a great resource which they can use. I don't know if I'm clear here, but I don't see myself working myself out of a job. I think we still need to be there. Yeah. Patricia.
Short, but I see a ton of students waiting to come in.
Oh, okay.
So let's thank Chuck one more time.
Thank you.